What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, former unified welterweight superstar boxer Keith "One-Time" Thurman downplayed undefeated WBO welterweight superstar boxer, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion Terence Crawford's accomplishments at the welterweight division. Tells Terence Crawford he did nothing to deserve a fight with him. Right? Keith Thurman, we just last saw in the ring against A-Division Filipino superstar boxer, current WBA welterweight world champion Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao, right? Manny Pacquiao took Keith Thurman's last belt, which was the WBA belt. Keith Thurman, previous to that, held the WBC, in which he won from Danny Swift Garcia. But he then was stripped of the title because of inactivity due to injuries and things of that nature. So which saw him continue to hold the WBA belt, in which he lost to Manny Pacquiao. This is the last time we saw Keith Thurman in the ring. He was dropped in that fight, and he was hitting Manny Pacquiao. It was an action-packed fight of the year type of fight. We saw him hit Manny Pacquiao with some big, clean punches, but Manny Pacquiao took it, right? Keith Thurman having displayed that one-time knockout punch power that he used to have. With that said, Keith Thurman has now moved up, has been inactive since the Manny Pacquiao fight, right? And once he moved up in competition, we haven't seen that one-punch knockout power, all that power that he displayed earlier in his career. With that said, we saw Keith Thurman with vulnerabilities, but he continues to tell anybody that listen that Terence Crawford doesn't deserve an opportunity to fight him, which is absurd to me, right? Keith Thurman has been saying this when Terence Crawford first made his debut at the welterweight division. Keith Thurman, reasoning for not fighting Terence Crawford was that Terence Crawford was just too small to compete at the welterweight division, and he had to bolster his resume in order to get a shot at him, right, and win the world title. We saw Terence Crawford then go on and defeat Jeff Horn and become, the WBO welterweight world champion. A lot of people felt like, Jeff Horn didn't win the fight with Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao was robbed in that fight. I'm one that felt that way. But Terence Crawford is one that feel like Jeff Horn legitimately won the fight against Manny Pacquiao. He said after he watched it, he saw he was roughing Manny Pacquiao up in the fight, and he felt like he won the fight. So nonetheless, Terence Crawford beat Jeff Horn and captured the WBO belt at the welterweight division. He since went on and he defeated Jose Benavidez. He defeated Amir Khan and more recently Kavaluskas, the Mean Machine, right? So those are his four opponents at the welterweight division: Jeff Horn, Jose Benavidez, Amir Khan, and then Kavaluskas, the Mean Machine, right? That was his last fight, December 14th. With that said, he's been campaigning for a fight with the upper echelon at the welterweight division. He wants a unification bout with undefeated unified welterweight superstar boxer Earl the Truth Spence Jr. That is the biggest fight in boxing outside of Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, who is the heavyweight, and as so the heavyweight division goes, so does the sport of boxing, right? They carry the sport of boxing when they're on the top of their game, the heavyweight division, that is, right? So with that said, the second biggest fight is Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. Everybody wants to see that. But Errol Spence suffered a horrific car accident October 10th. We're seeing him not participate in his January 25th showdown with Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia went on to fight a different opponent January 25th. And now, it looks like we're going to see Danny Garcia and Errol Spence take place sometime in June or even May, right? So Keith Thurman doesn't have a dance partner. He won a close decision against Showtime Sean Porter, two-division world champion, and he beat Danny Garcia. He lost to Manny Pacquiao. Now, Keith Thurman has been inactive. He's been out of the limelight. We've seen him on PBC, doing commentating work and things of that nature, but nothing about him going in the gym. Now, we know Keith Thurman has suffered another injury that he's recovering from. But Keith Thurman, if he's going to come back, he needs to fight legitimate fights at this point in time. No more tune-ups. Now, I know we're going to give him a pass because he's been out the ring and he's been injured, so that's going to warrant him having a tune-up. But we see guys like Errol Spence coming back and not looking to have tune-up fights. The thing about this is Keith Thurman, I believe, is avoiding Terence Crawford because he knows he doesn't match up well with his skill set. He doesn't. I believe, and I don't want to say Keith Thurman is afraid, right? Keith Thurman got on me for saying that fighters are afraid or of ducking other fighters, right? So I don't want to say fighters are afraid, but I do want to say is a reason for Keith Thurman to continually downplay Terence Crawford and wanting to fight. You see, Errol Spence said that he wants to fight with Terence Crawford. He believes it's a big fight. He believes he's going to be victorious. Sean Porter said that that's a fight that he's willing to take. You know, Danny Garcia said just get the money right and he'll take the fight. You know, he said tell Bob Arum get the money right and we'll take the fight. So, you know, but the way Keith Thurman approaches to Terence Crawford is always downplaying his abilities and always downplaying his accomplishments, right? In order to not be mentioned in the same light as a fight with Terence Crawford. And that's highly disappointing because I think that would be a great fight. I think that Terence Crawford will beat Keith Thurman. I think Keith Thurman showed vulnerabilities that Terence Crawford would exploit. He's weak to the body, Keith Thurman is, and Terence Crawford is a good body puncher. He's a southpaw. That's going to give Keith Thurman a lot of trouble. Keith Thurman needs to make this fight, right? At this point in time, I feel like Keith Thurman is doing more talking than he's doing fighting. He fought Josito Lopez, and he didn't look good in that fight. That was his comeback fight, and then obviously he lost to Manny Pacquiao. At this point, Keith Thurman has to do something to legitimize his career and his legacy, right? He has to have big fights. And Terence Crawford versus Keith Thurman is a huge fight. That's a pay-per-view worthy fight. And Keith Thurman, who are you going to fight? You downplaying fighting Sean Porter. You're in a rematch. You don't want you continue to go talk in circles and strategically move around Errol Spence, right? That's a fight where you keep saying that's going to be the last fight. You know that's a big fight, and you know that Errol Spence was coming, and eventually you're going to have to fight, but you're always talking future, not in present with Errol Spence. And now you're doing the same thing with Terence Crawford. These are the big fights in Keith Thurman's career. I know Keith Thurman is looking to get a rematch with Manny Pacquiao. That's a big lucrative fight for him. But at this point in time, Keith Thurman needs to bolster his legacy. I'm starting to be in a mindset to think that Keith Thurman is no longer thinking about his legacy at this point in time. He's just thinking about cashing out, as he should, right? Because you got to secure your future. So I'm not blaming him for wanting to secure his future. But at the same time, this is a sport and it's still a prize sport, and you still have to build your legacy if you want to forever be cemented in the sport of boxing in the history, right? So Keith Thurman needs to take the Terence Crawford fight. Terence Crawford doesn't have an opponent. Keith Thurman doesn't have a date or a comeback. So is Keith Thurman looking to have a tune-up fight, or is Keith Thurman looking to have a big lucrative fight? Because, you know, at this point in time, that's what's needed, right, in Keith Thurman's career. At this point in time, Keith Thurman is out of sight, out of mind, and it's like the fans are starting to forget about Keith Thurman and push Keith Thurman to the side. A lot of people didn't even feel like Keith Thurman deserved the opportunity to fight Manny Pacquiao. They thought it was more people more deserving to fight Manny Pacquiao than Keith Thurman. They felt like Manny Pacquiao chose Keith Thurman because they felt like Keith Thurman was the weak link out of the top of the upper echelon of the welterweight division. That's why Manny Pacquiao chose him, which is sad because Keith Thurman is a unified champion and was undefeated. His first loss came to Manny Pacquiao. So, people are starting to look at Keith Thurman's career as, being unfulfilled. We know he went back and forth with the situation with Adrian Broner. He talked about Adrian Broner and Adrian Broner's shortcomings. But in all actuality, Adrian Broner had a better outing than he did against Manny Pacquiao. Keith Thurman criticized Adrian Broner's fight with Manny Pacquiao, said he was disappointed. But then we look at Keith Thurman, your fight with Manny Pacquiao, and Keith Thurman Adrian Broner did a far better job against Manny Pacquiao than Keith Thurman did. Keith Thurman was dropped. Now, yes, Keith Thurman did let his hands go when people get frustrated with Adrian Broner for not letting his hands go, but still, nonetheless, Adrian Broner's defense was better. Adrian Broner was more accurate. Just a better outing than Adrian Broner, and that's the fight that Keith Thurman criticized Adrian Broner highly for, right? So at this point in time, Keith Thurman is starting to be a disappointment to his fans and to his legacy, right? Keith Thurman is going to have to do something, and Terence Crawford is the perfect opponent for Keith Thurman to make a name for himself. Imagine how big Keith Thurman can make his name, and he can replace, because remember, the big fight was Errol Spence and Keith Thurman, right? And Keith Thurman allowed, like Anthony Joshua allowed Tyson Fury to come in and sweep the rug from under his feet. Keith Thurman allowed Terence Crawford to come into the division and sweep the rug from under his feet. Because before Terence Crawford made his debut at welterweight division, the fight that everybody talked about was Keith Thurman and Errol Spence. And he came and he allowed Terence Crawford to sweep the rug from under his feet with inactivity and out of sight, out of mind, and not staying and not speaking the right language that the fans want to hear regarding Errol Spence. So now with that said, Keith Thurman has the opportunity to regain and recapture that that status as the big fight again in the welterweight division. Should he fight Terence Crawford and defeat Terence Crawford, the fight everybody's going to call for is Keith Thurman versus Errol Spence. That puts him right back at the top of the division because he already previous beat Sean Porter and Danny Garcia. Now he lost the fight to Manny Pacquiao. He beats Terence Crawford. That puts him, that gives him the biggest argument, legitimate argument that he could make for a rematch with Manny Pacquiao and a huge fight with Errol Spence. So Keith Thurman needs to take the Terence Crawford fight. Don't talk this talk of Terence Crawford lack of accomplishments and lack of ability and things of that nature. Don't discredit him. If he's if everything is what you say about Terence Crawford, then go ahead and fight Terence Crawford and get the easy victory, which would be a huge feather in your cap for your legacy. Make it happen. Don't talk about what he can and can't do. Don't downplay his abilities and his accomplishments. Go ahead, if that's the case, go ahead and absorb his accomplishments. Go ahead, add that feather to your cap. Defeat him. It should be an easy out for the way you're speaking of him. He's too small. He hasn't really accomplished anything at welterweight. So go ahead and defeat him. Take that all those accolades away from him. Make your name for yourself again. Put your name right back in the top of the division. You don't be the forgotten man anymore. And it's a huge addition to your legacy, and it would be a huge addition to your pockets because it would make the Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao rematch huge. So go ahead and make it happen. Stop talking Terence Crawford in circles and make it happen, Keith Thurman. But that's all I got for y'all. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shouts out to the entire LDBC. Shouts out to New Media. Shouts out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.